Welcome back, guys. It has been way too damn long. This is the ABNF Podcast. I'm here with my buddy Nick. Nick, how we doing? It's been too long, bro. I don't even know how to say it.
I completely agree. Yeah, it's been too long. I've been doing good overall. just living life and trying to keep up with all everything going on in sports in general, especially basketball. Now finally we're in the late stages of the play-in now.
hmm
So after tonight, we'll find out like who's going to be the top eight in each conference, and I'm excited for the playoffs, man. I think it's gonna be a good one this year for sure, especially in the West, man. I feel like there's a lot of different teams and a lot of different scenarios that could potentially happen. I feel like the East is gonna be predictable though.
Yeah, I feel like the East, unfortunately, the last couple of years has been way too predictable on who we think is going to win. So
Mm-hmm.
it just kind of seems we really focus on the West, and that just
Yeah.
seems to be a lot of NBA fans in general.
Mm-hmm.
However, I do think that there is like two intriguing matchups in the first round for the East, but I
Mm-hmm.
think about everything else is going to be as we expect, just kind of like a sweep or 5 game series. But
Yeah.
Nick, the last time that we actually talked was when the Luka Doncic trade went down, and that in itself, I think, really defined this NBA season. It was all over the place. Ratings were down. People weren't interested in the game of basketball anymore. It seemed like it just kind of felt like everything had become really mundane and
Mm-hmm.
we didn't really have any spark or excitement. And once that trade happened, a lot of things changed, man. I mean, we had Mark Williams get traded to the Lakers, then get rescinded. Obviously, Quentin Grimes gets traded after Luca, and they gave a second round pick as well to get Caleb Martin, who only played 14 games. And I mean, the Mavericks lost half their roster, after that trade, which was, again, insane. How AD plays 3 quarters, and then the rest of the season is kind of a wash for them. So we have a lot to dive into, man. I'm really excited to talk hoops. It's been, like I said, too long. So Nick, why don't we talk about what we were talking about at the beginning of the season? We had talked about teams that we expected to do well. Obviously, that never goes 100% right. We try to predict as well as we can, but
Mm-hmm.
there are circumstances that do change the very fabric of the season. So I'm going to let you start, man. What was your biggest surprise of this year? What was your biggest disappointment? Any wild card things that you want to throw out there too, man? Please feel free.
Yeah, of course. I'll start off with the biggest disappointment. I feel like a lot
Mhm.
of people going into this season, a lot of NBA fans in general had super high expectations for the Philadelphia 76ers,
Oh yeah.
especially getting Paul George. They're forming their big three with Embiid, Maxey, PG. Everyone's thinking that, whoa, maybe Philly is the biggest threat to Boston going into next season. That was the hot topic going into this season, whether it would be the Knicks or the Sixers. What was really interesting that Cleveland wasn't really talked about in that conversation. And look at them now. They got the number one seed, one of the best records they've had since LeBron was there in his early stages when they won 66 games with Mo Williams and a bunch of no names. But yeah, I would say Philadelphia is the biggest disappointment for sure. I don't know what record they ended up with, but going into this year, we all thought they would easily be like a top four seed in the Eastern Conference. And then obviously Embiid gets hurt, PG gets hurt. But even when PG was playing, I think he only averaged like 16, 17 points per game this year. Definitely wasn't himself at all. So I'm
No.
very interested to see how Philly's going to approach this offseason. Are they going to try to unload Paul George? Or no one's going to want to touch that contract now because he had a really, really bad year. Seems like he's getting hurt more often now.
Mhm.
Maybe the Clippers made the right decision, not even giving him a contract like that. So maybe we have to give the Clippers some credit there because we were kind of grilling them this
This
off season.
offseason for
And
sure.
yeah, and I would say the biggest surprises have been the Clippers,
Mhm.
obviously the Pistons, and then the Rockets. The Rockets and the Clippers to me were the two really, really big surprises
Surprises
for
for
sure.
sure.
I knew Houston was going to improve, but I did not think they'd be this good this early.
I think with Houston, I just think that Ime Udoka really did turn around this team in about a year. I think
Mm-hmm.
also just these guys like having one more year all together and their chemistry really starting to show. Alperen
Mm-hmm.
Sengun is one of the best centers in the league. Amen Thompson has taken a step forward this year.
Oh
He's their
yeah.
best perimeter defender. He was definitely one of those guys that was part of the glue pieces of this team. Jalen Green, I mean, he had a really good year. If you had him in fantasy this year, man, he was giving you like 70 to 80 fantasy points every game.
Yeah, he's a
Fred
bucket.
VanVleet being the veteran of the team. Dylan Brooks, I feel like Dylan Brooks just kind of like plays his role there. I don't really feel like he was a distraction necessarily
Yeah.
this year, like he
hmm
has been in past years where it's just kind of his antics. So
hmm
I feel like overall, like this team has a lot of talent, and I do agree with you. I think they were the biggest surprise out west.
hmm
Um, to give you the record though for the 76ers, it was 24 and 58. And I mean, they had a lot of injuries, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Joel Embiid and Nick, this is going to be
Jeremy
my question to
McCann.
you, man. Is Joel Embiid ever going to play a healthy year again? Because I just feel like at this point, we sit here every year and say Joel Embiid is hurt again. You know, is he really a top 10 player? I know when he's healthy, he can be, but is he really in the category of being a top star in this league? Because clearly he doesn't put in the work to stay healthy, and it's starting to show more and more. And I know that was a reason why the Mavs said we got to trade Luca because they think this is what's going to happen to him. But um, that's a question that I think a lot of people are asking in
Yeah.
Philadelphia.
Yeah. And what's interesting is Daryl Morey's not the type of GM that ever wants to go to a full rebuild.
Yeah.
But if it was me, really start dumping guys. I would try to move off Embiid. I would try to move off Paul George.
Oh yeah.
Start the off. You have a lottery pick this year.
hmm
Jerry McCain, before he got hurt, man, he looked like the rookie of the year, or he was
Oh, he
definitely in
would
the
have won
top.
Rookie of the Year for sure,
Oh
man. I
yeah, so like you could build off that for sure and create tons of cap space.
Yeah.
Get some younger, more athletic guys, and then maybe in a couple years from now, maybe you might bring in some really, really promising players. You never know what can happen. I just think with this core, I don't think they're ever going to win. I even
Probably
said it
not.
before the year too. We even talked about this. You would never win a championship with Joel Embiid as your best player.
No,
And the
but
reason that being is injuries. It's just you can
yeah.
never rely on him. He's injured every single playoffs, and he is the big version of Derrick Rose. Unfortunately, it's very unfortunate. I could see the comparisons a little
Yeah,
bit.
I
Like
can see it.
Joel Embiid was really really good, and then like he was still good, and then he's injured and all this. So we can never rely on him to be
hmm
healthy. In big moments, it was kind of like Derrick Rose after he won his MVP, then he got hurt. But when he was available, he was solid. But
For sure, for sure.
he definitely lost a step. I think Embiid definitely even lost a step a little bit when he was out there healthy. You can't defend at all.
Well, I think the problem was is that he focused way too much on the Summer Olympics, and then I think after
Mm-hmm.
that he didn't really focus on like recovering his body. And one of the biggest problems is his knees are usually the ones that are failing. Like his knees just fail on him all the time, or his foot.
Yeah,
Obviously he's had some problems with like his eye, his face. There's been a thing every year. But what I was also going to say though, Nick, is they need to make sure they retain Quentin Grimes because after they got him, this dude just went off. I mean,
oh
it
yeah.
made Nico Harrison look like a bigger buffoon than he already has made himself look. And,
Mm-hmm.
he ended up, I think he was averaging 10 points on the Mavs, and he upped
Yeah,
his average to 20 by the end of the year with the Sixers. It was crazy. Um,
yeah,
but we talked a lot before the season about how the Sixers were probably we said they were one of the winners of the offseason. They bring in Paul George on a 4-year sign and trade. Um,
Mm-hmm.
or actually, was it a sign? I'm trying
I
to
think it was
remember.
just a 4 year. I
I
think it
think it
was
was
just
just
a
a
flat
4-year
out 4 year
science. Yeah,
deal. Yeah.
flat out 4-year deal. Obviously we thought the Clippers, they looked bad, but like you said, they look like geniuses now, considering that they're the 5 seed. Their team was healthy this year. Even the guys they picked up in the offseason, like Derrick Jones Jr., Chris Dunn, and then bringing in Bogey. That was one of the best trade deadline moves that nobody really talked about.
Yeah.
Um, and then you just see like the Sixers, like they brought in Drummond, as a backup to Embiid. We're thinking, okay, that was a great move. Tobias Harris finally gone. Bring in Paul George as an upgrade. Ironically, Tobias Harris is on a playoff team this year, and the Sixers are nowhere to be found. Tyrese Maxey being your number two, he's been great the last 2 to 3 years. So you really felt like, okay, you got your big three, and then you brought in a couple other pieces. I believe they had Eric Gordon that they brought in as a scorer off the bench. It kind of a lot of their moves felt like, okay, this team's going to be pretty good. And I don't want
Yeah.
to spend the whole pod talking about them, but just to like wrap up that last point with them, they their off season looked so successful, and
Hmm.
the way the year started off, it reminds me of that 2012 Lakers team when they had Dwight and Steve Nash. You remember how bad they started out? And
Yeah.
Mike Brown was their coach, and he got fired. And then they
Hmm.
brought in D'Antoni. And this is kind of similar how it felt with the Sixers, starting out 1-8. They looked awful. I mean, when Paul George like decided to stop doing his podcast and then ends up being ruled out for the rest of the year, it was just a bad look overall.
Yeah. Hmm.
My disappointment though, Nick, in the West, I was gonna say Dallas, and it would be easy to say that,
Hmm.
but granted, a lot of injuries happen. I would say
Yeah.
Phoenix, man. The Phoenix Suns were the
Oh
biggest
yeah.
disappointment in the Western Conference. I mean, the fact that they went 36 and 46, they
Hmm.
couldn't win at the end of the year. Like they were a game or two out from the 10 seed.
Hmm.
Dallas lost half their team. Bro, they literally would have actually had to start forfeiting games if some of their guys didn't come back. Like that's how bad it had gotten. And they
Yeah.
were losing so many games, but the Suns just couldn't compile any wins. Like I want to say they lost like 10 in a row or something. And I was
Hmm.
just like, you know what? I thought the Suns could maybe actually like squeeze into the playoffs. Like this was their big break they needed. This team was mostly healthy. I know KD got hurt at the end of the year, but this team had no defense, man. I mean,
No.
and Budenholzer like prides himself on being a defensive minded coach. And even with like Frank Vogel last year, also a defensive minded coach, you don't have the personnel. I think Matt Ishbia, he really tried to push for a win now move when they traded for KD, but they gave up so much to get KD that it
Yeah.
ultimately crippled their team. Then when they move off Paul George and DeAndre Ayton, they just get older.
And
And
Chris Paul. Yeah.
ironically, even trading Chris Paul, who's old himself, they
Hmm.
got older, they got slower, they got less athletic, they don't have any defense. You lose Mikal Bridges, you lose Cam Johnson. Those are two of your cornerstone pieces that you had in your core. They're gone. You like Grayson Allen was like one of the only bright spots in all those moves that they made when they were just trying to retool their team. Bradley Beal
Yeah.
has been a disaster the 2 years he's been in Phoenix. I just think with his contract and his no trade clause, it's almost damn near impossible to move off of him because nobody
Yeah.
wants him, and he
Hmm.
can only be the one to do it. And just my last point on this too is like Kevin Durant, man, like he's such a talented player, but he's at the point of his career where he can give you 30 points a game, but that's not going to necessarily impact the actual score.
Hmm.
He's like kind of like it's like almost like a stat getter now. He needs to be on a team that has so much talent around him.
Yeah.
Kind of similar to like how LeBron's like impact on winning doesn't happen as much as it used to. Like he has to have really good teammates around him to help him win. It's kind of
Hmm.
the same thing we're seeing with KD, even with Steph, but what are your thoughts on that?
No, I agree with everything you said about Phoenix. And what's really bad is they don't own their own first round draft pick to 2032. So that's the thing. Like they went for the home run. They traded for Kevin Durant. They traded for Bradley Beal to form this so-called big three, but it has been a complete disaster. Not on Kevin Durant's part; he's been doing this thing, just like you
Yeah,
said. You know what I mean? Obviously, Devin Booker. Like I think they were two of the top eight scorers in the NBA. If
yeah.
you look at the points per game, I believe. And Bradley Beal as the third wheel that just has been a complete disaster. I think it's kind of hard to form a big three when you don't have a true point guard. When your best three guys, none of them are point guards. I feel like, yeah, they brought in Tyus Jones. They thought he could be the guy, but he didn't
Mhm.
really have that much impact either. That move didn't. We thought that was going to be a big move for them, like a sneaky move going into this offseason, and it really ended up panning out. Like Grace Allen, like you say, he's definitely been like the one spark. He's
Mhm.
a credible 3-point shooter, one of the best 3-point shooters in the league.
Mhm.
But now Phoenix is in trouble, man. Bradley Beal seems like he's not going anywhere. He got no
Nope.
trade clause, so he's not going anywhere. Devin Booker has record saying he wants to be a Phoenix Sun for life. He don't want to go anywhere. So they only have one option. And that one option is if you want to get some actual, at least get like 30% of your draft capital back, you're gonna have to move Kevin Durant.
Oh, that's for sure
Because
happening.
Kevin Durant is definitely be in the Suns uniform going into next off. I'm very curious to see where he would go.
Hmm.
I think I personally believe Oklahoma doesn't make the finals this year. I really think Sam Presti's going to now realize SGA
Hmm.
needs a guy like
I
a
would love
guy
to see
that's like
that.
better than SGA, like
Yeah,
neck and neck with
I know what you
SGA
mean.
when it comes to level of
Yeah,
talent.
yeah.
And it'll be time to start moving off. Like just get Phoenix like I don't know 2 first round picks, some young guys, or 3 first round picks, maybe one young whatever. If you could bring Kevin Durant to Oklahoma, Williams, SGA, Chet Hall, I'm telling you right now, it might happen. I think Sam Presti might actually start swinging here if they
Hey, I
don't
mean,
get to the finals this year.
it would be great. I mean, it would be a homecoming story. It would be a great way for KD into his career. Leaving OKC on a bad note. Blowing a 3-1
And
lead in the
LeBron
West
did it with
Conference
Cleveland.
Finals. Yeah, like when LeBron went back to Cleveland, that trophy he won in Cleveland will be his most valuable one. If KD went back to OKC and helped SGA win, that'd be his most valuable ring he'd ever get.
100% agree.
So
Absolutely.
I agree with you, but just like you said, man, they have to trade him. There is no way. I mean,
Yeah. That's the only
bro,
option they have
they have the highest payroll in the NBA, and they could only win
in the
36
playoffs.
games, man. That is actually insane. Bro, they had to trade for Nick Richards, which no disrespect to Nick Richards, but man, he wasn't helping you at all in terms of like changing your like defensive mindset as a center. They gave up on Nurkic, they benched him, stopped playing him, just traded him to Charlotte and
Yeah.
said, "All right, get out of here." Bol, who they've had, they were trying to put these lineups of Bol and Nick Richards with KD and Book and
Mm-hmm.
Tyus Jones or Bradley Beal, depending on who they wanted to put out there at point guard. Um,
Yeah.
it was just a weird season for them. Like it's insane because KD, Nick, he averaged almost 27 points this year off 53% from the field. Like
It was unbelievable.
if I just said that and I didn't say anything about who the player was, you would think, oh, this guy's like on a playoff team for sure. Like there's just no way. And then it's like that was Kevin
Even Devin
Durant's
Booker
stat line.
stats, it's ridiculous too.
Oh
And
yeah.
and one thing about Phoenix too, it's kind of hard to form continuity on a team
Mhm.
when you fire your coach
Every
every
single yeah.
single year and you start off a new year with a new coach that has a new philosophy. Like you fire Frank Vogel, you fire Mike Bloom. You have these guys that have won championships or a
Mhm.
championship, not championship. They won a
Yeah, yeah,
championship
yeah,
each,
yeah.
right? But like you're not even giving your coach like a chance anymore. I mean, that's even the trend now in today's game. Like, too, like one move that shocked the shit out of everybody was Mike Malone getting fired. I know it's a different thing that we're talking about right
Yeah,
now,
yeah, for
but it's
sure.
just
But we
like
can we could talk about
these
that
front
too.
offices have no filter no more, man. Even like Phoenix, man, they have no capital. They're
Hmm.
not patient. They can't be patient because they traded all their assets for Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal, and they don't want to pick to 2032. So
Yeah.
they're like they're not having a good year. They're just going to start firing people and stuff. And the new owner for Phoenix has been a complete disaster. I think he's only in the second or third year as well
Matt
as
Ishbia,
owner.
yeah. Um,
Yeah, it's
when
just
he,
been a
yeah,
complete disaster so far.
when Robert Sarver sold the team to Matt Ishbia 2 years ago, and when they traded for KD, that was the beginning of the end for the team. I hate to, and that sounds crazy to say, but just all their moves that they were trying to do. Like, I understand you're trying to get in this win now, but I think something that we've kind of now been able to conclude is big threes don't work. They haven't worked in a long time. You
Mm-hmm.
need two star players and a lot of good players around you, complementary pieces, because if you've noticed, every team that has been winning the finals in the past couple of years, there is no big three that you're seeing winning it all. You have like two top players. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
you have a third guy as a borderline all-star. Everybody else is like complementary pieces that can really fit well on the team.
Yep.
And I look at a team like Detroit right now, right? Like they didn't have necessarily like the most attractive roster, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you had a guy in Cade Cunningham who played out of his mind this year, made his first All-Star team. He was cooking, man. I mean, he averaged 26 this year, 6 rebounds, 9 assists, shot 47% from the field. They had a 30 game turnaround. And it's crazy to think like 2 years ago, or no, actually not even 2 years ago, last year, Monty Williams was their coach, and
Yeah.
he only won them 14 games. Like think about that, man. Monty Williams was a mastermind, right? Like when the Suns made the finals, that was his
Yeah,
high point. Ever since then,
yeah.
man, it's been a nosedive. I remember the big deal he signed with Detroit, to help turn
Oh
around
yeah,
this franchise. They fire him, bring in JB Bickerstaff, who got fired from the Cavs. And it's crazy to think, like, you know, Kenny Atkinson comes in, the Cavs are the number one seed. JB Bickerstaff comes in. Malik Beasley is going to probably be the sixth man of the year. Just he
yeah.
was balling, man.
Cooking.
They needed him because Jaden Ivey went down, and like you have some like veterans on this team, like a Tobias Harris, and I know Malik
Yeah, they
Beasley's
got
been
some good
around the
young
block.
talent too.
Yeah,
I like
and
Duran.
Duran's one of their most important players because he's your presence down low. You got Beef Stew always trying to fight somebody. I don't know
Yeah.
why this dude just wants to like bring Malice in the Palace 2.0. Just especially with that fight that happened against Minnesota. It's so random too. Like
Yeah.
I don't see like a lot of guys just trying to scrap. So it's really funny to see it because everybody's buddies with each other in the NBA now. Like
Hmm.
you don't have those rivalries.
Yeah.
But that was like
Hmm.
the one time where you really saw like people still like getting in each other's face and like actually getting visibly pissed.
Yeah.
So but yeah, man, I think Detroit was I think one of those like bright spots this year. I don't think and if memory serves me correctly, I think we probably had them as a play-in team,
Yeah.
borderline play-in team, maybe like on the outside looking in, but
Yeah.
like around like that like 9 to 11 range. I want to say there was like somewhere we had them in before the season,
Yeah.
and to see like that they were a top six seed, first time they made the playoffs since 2019, it was great to see. And I don't know if they can beat the Knicks. I think it'll be a competitive series for sure, but.
Hmm.
You know, I think that this team has a lot of upside, especially with Cade. They just have to obviously add some pieces, but I think that they're on the I think they're on the upward trajectory. So
Absolutely. I feel like they're the Magic of last year.
yeah, yeah, I 100% agree with that.
Hmm.
Um, and I think yeah, I feel like every other team basically that made the playoffs in like the East, I don't think we were shocked. I think obviously like some of the things that happened, obviously the Jimmy Butler drama, and Miami just kind of like dipping off the I think that was like an anomaly we didn't see happening. Obviously like Orlando had a lot of injuries this year, so that kind of put them in a weird thing. Do you know, man, that they won their division? I know division winners don't really matter anymore, but Orlando is like one
Yeah.
of the first division winners to have a not above 500 record in like a
Yeah.
long
That's
time.
wild.
I forget how long ago it was, but their
Yeah.
division's so bad that they were the
Hmm.
top of it. That just
Yeah.
kind of also speaks about it. Real quick before we move on, I just have to say, like, shout out to the Indiana Pacers, man. I know I'm wearing a Bucks hat right now, but shout out to the Pacers, dude. Like they had a very quiet, successful season. They were 50 and
Hmm.
32. Halliburton finally got it going in January, and I think the team really turned around.
Yeah.
This team has basically the same team as last year. I think just chemistry with Pascal Siakam, Halliburton, obviously getting Benedict Mathurin back this year, him playing a full year healthy. They're gonna be a solid team in the playoffs, man. Maybe they beat the Bucks in the first round. We never know with this team.
We'll
I mean
see.
they beat the Knicks last year in the second round, so they could be an interesting team, bro, that somehow finds themselves in the conference finals. I doubt it because they're gonna have to play the Celtics, but if they win, so we'll
Hmm.
see. We'll see, man. But actually, no, I'm sorry, the Cavs. I mean, so
They
we'll
play Cleve. Yeah.
yeah. But
They
we'll
play
see. We'll
Cleveland.
see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anything else you want to add before we start talking about the play-in playoffs? Because I feel like you were mentioning a little bit about the coach, Mike Malone. I don't know if you want to dive into those firings because it wasn't just him that got fired, bro.
No, yeah, no. The Mike Malone one definitely is surprising. I know him and the Nuggets organization have been butting heads. It kind of reminds you of like the Tom Thibodeau or with the Bulls kind of thing a little bit,
Yeah.
but not. The only difference is like rumors that have been coming out. Like Mike Malone apparently was never yelling at Jokic or Murray whenever they made mistakes, but he'd be grilling everybody else. he gave like the Jokic like the star treatment. And I guess it rubbed a lot of the players the wrong way, and they went behind his back, behind the scenes and stuff. But at the same time, it's like, as a coach, especially if you have a star level player like that, you got to make him as happy as possible. So I don't think
Yeah.
you're any coach would be grilling their star player like that. It's just not going to really happen unless it became like a situation like a James Harden in Houston when he stopped showing up, like literally didn't show up, or Jimmy Butler, for
Yeah.
example. But Jokic would never be the player to do something like that. So like I I hate to say this like role players and stuff like that, but no matter if it's college, high school, NBA, overseas, I'm sorry, but star level players are gonna get special treatment. It's
No,
just how it
100%.
works. It's
100%,
literally
bro.
how it works.
100%.
So players that got offended about Mike Malone doing that, like, I'm sorry, no coach is gonna ruin their relationship with a star player, especially when they're going to be in the mix. Like the Nuggets are a team that are always going to be in the mix if they can keep this team together for at least another 3 to 5 years. I'm not saying they're going to win another championship, but they will definitely be in the playoff picture when you have Jokic and Murray together. Like
I
there's
mean,
no doubt about that. No coach is going to want to be the guy that makes their star level player pissed off that they want to leave.
Jokic is a 30-point
On it.
walking triple double, man. There's no way. I do think from the reports they were also saying that he was getting like into it with the general manager, and higher ups just basically said, "All right, both of you are gone then." I just think it's like, if you're gonna do this, I understand that,
Wait till
okay.
the season's over.
Yeah, I don't understand why we're not waiting until the NBA season's over. Like, I thought the Taylor Jenkins one was weird too.
West. Yeah.
I felt like both, like, I understand that maybe it's not working, but you also got rid of his staff, brought in a bunch of people he's never worked with before to try and retool the playbook, and then say, okay, well, clearly we're not doing as well as we should be. We're gonna fire you now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Yeah.
like, I feel like we've seen a lot of guys get fired that sign these massive contracts and they already get fired after 1 year. Now we're not even waiting. We're just saying, and these, not to say that these guys were, but we're firing established head coaches that have made multiple playoff appearances, and all of a sudden now they're all getting canned. Like, I just thought it was very weird back to back. The Malone one was more surprising because Mike Malone is only 2 years removed from winning the NBA Finals. I mean, last year we thought they were going to repeat. Obviously, Game Six, I think Game Six of the semifinals was a turning point. I think that upper management started saying, like, hey, um, if this happens again, we might have to make some changes, because I think
Mm-hmm.
they knew that they weren't going to be able to continue to keep all of the core that they had, and they were going to have to start
Yeah.
making some changes and drafting some younger guys, because
Mm-hmm.
they kind of lost pieces every year. Obviously, the first year they lost,
Bruce
yeah,
Brown,
yeah, Bruce Brown
Jeff
and Jeff
Green, and him.
Green, and they lost KCP this past offseason, which I thought was a huge like hit on them. I
Yeah.
thought that he was one of their like glue guys. Like, I know AG has been a glue guy for them, and same thing with Michael Porter. But I felt like KCP was like one of those guys that's like, if you need him to hit a three or guard the best player on the perimeter, that was the guy
Mm-hmm.
you went with. And I just felt like letting him go and not even trying to offer him a competitive like contract. I thought was a
Yeah.
huge, huge like miss for them. And
Yeah.
they had no defense this year either, dude. Like, their defense looked terrible this whole
They couldn't
year.
shoot the three either. They couldn't
Oh
shoot
no,
the
they
three as
can't.
much either. It just shows with this new NBA that, especially with the salary cap, when you're paying three guys 35 plus million hours a year, you're not going to have a good supporting cast around the three.
Oh,
You see it in
100%.
Phoenix. You see it in Denver. The only reason why Denver's in the because Jokic is the best player in the world. That's just not
100%.
even a debate. You know what I mean? So when you have a guy in the prime of their career, um, and you have a good second, Jamal Murray, and then Michael Porter is a good third. He's a
Yeah.
very good third option. Like when you have those three guys paid, yeah, you took care of them. Smart move by the organization. But after that, you got to start finding these role players that just fit with them, and they just really don't mesh with them as much. And I just think too, like when Mike Malone bashed the players in
Mhm.
that one after post game, is like, yeah, the players clearly didn't watch film on this team. Like you took a shot at everybody. You know what I mean? So maybe that's why Denver's starting to realize, oh, we might need to make some change. But Mike Malone is just a hard nosed coach.
He's an old school
Coach.
coach.
He's old school. He's
Yeah.
literally Tom Thibodeau. You know what I
Yeah, no,
mean?
he
He's
screams at
literally
his
that kind of
players.
style. Yeah,
Yeah.
screams at his players. Maybe not Jokic, and then maybe that's why the players felt some type of way
I
about it. But
I wonder if he
you
didn't
know,
scream at Russ. That's my question. Because I know Russ cost them two games in
what's
a
another
row.
story? Yeah,
And I know that that was also part of the headline. I feel bad for Russ, man. Like I know that like
yeah,
he's been clowned too many times in his career, and it just feels like everywhere he goes, he's like a cancer that just kills the organization. I don't know. That's just how it feels every time he goes somewhere.
yeah.
So I know that that probably played a factor. But it's not necessarily all on him. I just think Mike Malone, unfortunately, was just in the crossfire of something that is kind of also part of the fault of the front office for fumbling some of these players away.
Hmm.
He can only do so much as a coach, and he was still leading this team with Nikola Jokic to 50 wins. Like, every single year, they're still
Every
getting to
year.
50 wins. They're still a
Yeah.
top four seed. It's not like he wasn't doing his job. Just
Hmm.
unfortunately, I think it's just more of like butting heads. Some personnel weren't happy with him, and it just ended up costing him his job. But the question then becomes is like, all right, well, if players are upset with the coach at one point, are we going to just start firing every coach just because the players are like, well, hey, he's not making me happy? It's like at
Yeah.
some point you have to say it's like this is a style. If it works, great. If it's not working, okay, let's talk about that, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, Before we go to our break and talk about the play-in games and then the playoff predictions that we'll have, I just wanted to real quick rant about Nico Harrison, and I just have to do it, man, because I'm so done with hearing the excuses. You, as an organization, have an obligation to sign your cornerstone player. I don't care if he has to cost you $350 million. He got you to the finals. And if you say he's fat and lazy, then that is the best fat and lazy motherfucker I've ever seen because he was
Literally.
cooking
Yeah.
in the playoffs. This guy averaged 34 points last year. He
Hmm.
led your team to the finals. I know Kyrie's there. Kyrie's a great second piece.
Yeah.
But come on, man. What are we
Not only
talking
that,
about?
2 years before that, they had no
Yes,
business making it to the conference finals.
they
No bit.
beat
It was Luke. It was Luca and a bunch of role players
they
that
beat
schooled
a
into the Western Conference Finals.
67
Yeah,
win Phoenix team. That was their best record. And Luca with Dwight Powell, Dorian Finney-Smith,
Max
Spencer
Kleber.
Dinwiddie, and Tim Hardaway Jr.
Yeah.
made it to the conference finals. And you want to say this guy is fat and lazy. I'm
Game
so tired
seven
of this
in
fucking
Phoenix,
narrative.
40 beating them by 40.
Like it's insane, man. I just
I,
I
I I
don't
hear you, man.
understand it.
Lucas, yeah, that trade to this day, yeah, it's gonna go down as one of the worst trades, especially if the Mavericks don't win a championship within 2 to 3 years. They put themselves in a very very tough position. Luca never thought a 25-year-old that's a top three player in the world would get dealt, and not even knowing that this was going down either. They completely disrespected him, and you could tell um, when they played that video before they
Oh yeah.
announced him like in
Oh
that
my
starting line for
God.
the Lakers, how he reacted shows he was never even thinking about
Oh,
leaving
he
Dallas.
he
He was going to be
wanted
a
to be a
Maverick
Mav.
for life. He wanted to be a Mav for life,
Yeah.
man. And Dallas is one of those franchises where you don't really see that whole. Yeah, you had Dirk Nowitzki, but other than
Mhm.
that, like I can't recall like another player that was like really good for them that like stayed in Dallas their whole career. I can't really recall to be honest with you. So the
There
fact
really
that you had
hasn't
a
been
player like
anybody.
Luca, he's an international superstar.
Oh
He's
yeah.
literally on the verge of being. Well, he's clearly going to be the face of the NBA now. Now he plays for the Lakers,
Hmm.
but he was in that conversation, bringing you to the NBA Finals, bringing you to a conference Finals. They even advanced a few years. They've made the semis a couple times as well. Like Luca, man, it's just
He's
I
special,
don't
bro.
understand it.
He's
I don't
special.
understand it. It's insane. I understand what would have been the 5 year, $345
Yeah.
million contract, and
Hmm.
I understand like with the new salary cap situation. But like, okay, so you want Oklahoma to get rid of SGA then because they shouldn't pay him? Like that's insane. Like that's
No,
absurd. Like
it
I'm sorry, it's
is.
just how it is. You got to pay him.
And
You know?
the biggest problem too is they just kept trying to double down. It's like, all right, look, I get it. You say as an organization, this was the best move for us. Okay, great. Stop trying to defend it, all right? Because you're upset that people are upset at you and outraged. Like, I mean, if I was a Dallas Maverick fan, I'd be outraged too. You traded their best player. And for what? No disrespect to AD. He's not a bad player. He's a top 15 player in the league. But
Yeah,
he's 32 years old.
7
He's
years older.
injury prone.
Hmm.
You didn't get anybody like Austin Reeves, Dalton Connect, more
And
draft
no,
capital.
and one draft, and one
Like,
first round pick when Mikal Bridges went for five.
yeah. I mean, Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, all these other guys, they've gone for way more. And like Luca is the best player out of all of them. And I just think, again, you continuing to try and justify this trade just makes you look dumb. Like, stop trying to
Yeah,
tell us, well, you see, it's because of this and because he wasn't in shape. And it's like Patrick Dumont sounded dumb. The work ethic of Shaq, my guy, Shaq literally admitted he did not work out in the offseason. This guy got bigger over time. What are we talking about?
literally, it's nuts. I completely
It's
agree
just,
with everything you're
yeah,
saying right now.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's crazy,
literally.
man. It's crazy. But I'm gonna just like leave it there. All I'm gonna say is Lakers are 50 and 32 in the third seed, and the Mavericks were 39 and 43 in the 10 seed. We'll see what happens in the playoffs, man. But that trade is probably gonna really age bad. So we'll see. But when we
Yeah.
get back, we're gonna talk about the playing games so far, what we think is gonna happen tonight, and then we'll talk about the playoff matchups that are gonna be coming up this weekend. So stay tuned. Welcome back to the second part of the episode. We're going to talk about the NBA play-in games that have happened so far. We do have two matchups tonight. Those are the losers of the 7-8 and the winners of the 9-10. And
Mhm.
we'll also be talking about the Tuesday and Wednesday games that we saw. Nick, which game do you want to start off with? Because I think that there were really no great matchup besides the Grizzlies and Warriors game. I felt like the other ones were just kind of blowout games. So let
Yeah.
you want to talk about that one first?
Which, yeah, I'll talk about any of them. I definitely want to get to the Bulls one because they pissed me off, but
All right,
we'll
we'll
get
start with
to
the
that.
Bulls one. We'll start with the Bulls one
We'll
for
start with
sure.
the Bulls
Okay,
because
yeah, we'll do
I
that.
could cook, bro. So this is the third in a row since the play-in has been a thing.
Yep.
The Bulls have been eliminated by the same freaking team. They've
Yep.
been eliminated by the Miami Heat for the third straight play-in. Can't make this up. And what's crazy is the Bulls, I think they were 15 and 5 in their last 20 games going into this playing game, right? 15 and 5,
They
14,
were
6, something like that.
their record like before the playoffs started it was pretty good. They were 15 and 10, I know, after the All-Star break. So,
Yeah. Okay, yeah, they got hot, and all of a sudden they just completely wet the bed at home. You know what I mean? Like they came out so flat. Miami just blew them out. I mean, it was 62-37, and I said, yeah, I have enough of this. And I know they came back a little bit. They cut it to like
13.
13,
Yeah.
something like that. And then, but you just knew at that point, like, they used so much energy just to get back in the game like that. They couldn't stop Tyler Hero. I
Yep.
mean, like the Bulls, obviously the Bears are going to bear, the Bulls are going to bull. The Bulls this whole season defensively they were horrible, horrific.
We
I
knew
think they
that
were
going in.
they gave up. Yeah, we knew that going in. I believe they gave up the second most points per game in the East. I would have to look at that again, but I think they gave up just about 120 points per game. I think it was like 118 or 119 point whatever. It was flat out embarrassing. The one guy you thought hey, Patrick Williams for he don't even get me going on Patrick Williams. But going back to the game, yeah, the Bulls just came out flat. It's what happens in these one and done games, man. You come out flat. That's the ball game right there. Miami did an excellent job because a lot of these playing games, the home teams have been usually winning. So the odds were in the Bulls' favor, obviously, and stuff like that. But Miami just obviously came out strong, and then obviously besides Josh Giddey, like no one really showed up for the Bulls either. Like Kobe White didn't have the greatest game in the world. Vooch didn't really have a good game either. Like, but Giddey's gonna get paid.
Oh,
So
Giddey's going to get paid, but Josh Giddey was one of the only people that showed up for the
yeah.
Chicago Bulls. And I got to say this first off. I apologize for any, slander or any like bad things I said about Josh Giddey before the season. He proved me
Mm-hmm.
wrong. I really didn't think he was going to be that good. I felt that his inability to shoot the three, his inability to play defense,
Mm-hmm.
he's a great facilitator, can pass the ball and stuff, play make. he really fixed his 3-point shot, and he has also had accountability about his defense and talking about how that's something he really wants to focus on the offseason of fixing. To me, that tells me that he's going to be a player that actually could be a future corner piece of this franchise. Now, like you said, um, unfortunately, the Bulls bowled and they lost to the same team they've lost to the prior 2 years. So now it's 3 years in a row losing to the Miami Heat in the play-in.
Hmm.
Usually we at least win the first one before we lose to them. Uh, but I think not having guys like Trey Jones, Io DeSumo, and Lonzo Ball were huge factors in terms of you didn't have anybody to really guard Tyler Hero, man. I mean, I
Yeah.
would have been trying to
Trey Jones
throw
would have been the guy.
right. I would have probably played Julian Phillips a little bit more, at least to just have a body on him because they were playing Kevin Huerter. And look, Huerter's been great since we acquired him. I think he's actually a guy you should keep on the Bulls. 3-point shooter that can be consistent, like knockdown, like he can get you between 15 to 20 points a game when he wants. I think I feel like the Bulls, even though they lost, you know, I feel better about this playing team Bulls than the previous ones because the previous ones had such a high salary and these were like all-star level players where,
Hmm.
we should be doing better than being the 9 seed or the 10 seed, with DeMar and Zach. And I mean, the Kings game, it was basically like watching the Bulls 2.0 right there. It was the same thing we've
Literally.
been seeing every year
Yep.
with them. It was the same thing Kings fans saw. Um, I mean, you look at Miami on paper. I mean, their roster, they just have better players.
Yeah.
Like no disrespect to the Bulls, but I think a lineup of Andrew Wiggins, Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, Davion Mitchell, and you can put in anybody of Alec Burks, Kel'el Ware, or Jaime Jaquez, and I think that's better than the Bulls starting five. If I have to be
Yeah.
honest, I just don't. I think with Miami, unfortunately, because of the whole Jimmy Butler drama, this dropped them all the way where it was kind of like they really should not try to win because they're going to lose their only ability to have a draft pick this year.
Hmm.
So they really shouldn't win tonight. But what I will say is that team always plays hard. I have to give them credit. I mean,
Hmm.
Davion Mitchell, bro, he locked down Kobe on that shot that
Yeah.
I think really like the Bulls started to get momentum. And you just saw it kind of go away after that. And I just also think, like Matis is a rookie. This is the biggest game he played in his career so far.
Hmm.
He just has to develop more. I just think Kobe White, he had a great second half of the year.
Yep.
But to me, Kobe is very inconsistent when it comes to the playoffs and in any playoff atmosphere. It's been a
Hmm.
problem with him since we made the playoffs in 2022. We really didn't see him show up.
Yeah.
Last year, same problem. He showed up in the Atlanta game, but didn't show up in the Miami game. So it's kind of like we don't know what version of Kobe White we're gonna get. Vooch is
Yeah.
Vooch. He's gonna get you a double double. Doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna win or lose. So
Yeah. One thing
I
I
don't.
do got to say
All right.
is AK pisses me off now. He's really pissing me off. I think you were gonna get to that part, but he tells our fan base to be patient. Patient.
We've been patient,
How long
bro.
we gotta be patient for? How
Four,
long we
no, actually
how
5 years, 5 years of this,
long we
man.
gotta be patient for? What
Five
is
years of
this?
being
Like how
patient,
are you
bro.
okay for just making the play in every goddamn year and you can't even advance out of it? It's one of these years we haven't advanced out of the plan. What do you
Hey,
mean
bro,
patient?
it's AK Super Bowl, man. Come on, don't you already know by now? Like we just love playing in the play-in, man, just to not win. We
To
hate
not
ourselves
win.
so much. Um, yeah, I mean, congrats to Miami. I think with the turmoil that this season, that was a big win for them. I think for Chicago, it just proved again that, this team is not good enough. I think that even if they beat Miami, they would have lost to Atlanta. I just feel like that's just how this team is. They don't make sense. So
I agree. Yeah. But at least they got some young talent and they don't and hopefully,
they don't have big
you know,
contracts to worry about right now.
yeah, so at least they have that kind of going for them.
Yeah.
Well, big contract's gonna come up with Kenny
Well,
when he gets paid.
yeah. I mean, probably
Yeah.
not Zach level, but he's going to get
No.
decently paid.
Yeah, for
You know,
sure. And he is like team now. I feel like Kobe White is a better player, but I feel like because of like Giddy's age and like
Mhm.
who he could really become, I just think he has such huge upside where he could be like that point guard that the Bulls have been dying for ever since like the Derrick Rose situation happened,
Yeah,
obviously.
for sure.
So yeah. Hmm.
No, I think he definitely can be. I like their core. Io, Kobe, Josh Giddey, Julian Phillips, Kevin Huerter, Matas Buzelis, Jalen Smith, and then if they can just fill out like a couple other pieces, if they can, again, like I don't know if they want to try and keep Trey Jones. You definitely could try. I kind of feel like
Yeah.
Patrick Williams just needs to get out of this team. Like
Yeah, that contract might be hard. That's the
I
problem
know the
with
5 year,
that.
$90 million contract, but I think the core, like, it's not bad. They need to
Yeah.
obviously get another piece, like a big. I think
We
that would
need a
be
big
huge
bat.
for them.
Hmm.
So hopefully in the draft, if we can somehow get lucky and get like a top five lottery pick, man, that'll be huge for us because there is no way we're gonna get Cooper Flag. But hey, if we can get one of the top centers in this draft, man, like I will be happy with that, and I'll call it a day. But
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest things. Let's talk about that second Bulls team, man. Let's talk about the Sacramento Kings, the Bulls of the West, and
Yeah.
on the Dallas game. So again, another blowout game, 120-106. This game was not close at all.
No.
I watched about 2.5 quarters of it and I fell asleep. I'm gonna be honest with you, because that's how
Yeah.
bad it was. Yeah, Dallas showed that if they're healthy, man, they're a good team. Sacramento just couldn't get it going. I think the two big lineups were really affecting them, especially like trying to get it to Sabonis down low. They don't have
Yeah.
a lot of rim defense, like Sabonis, Valanciunas, Trey Lyles. Like they're in Keegan Murray. Like they're not defenders. Like this is a
Yeah.
very offensive minded team. So
Yeah.
I kind of felt they got exposed on that end too. AD didn't even have like his most dominant game, but he still had 27 and
Hmm.
he was able to like get it inside to Gafford and Lively. And I just kind of felt like that was just way too much for them. And Zach, yeah, Zach LaVine, bro, and DeMar DeRozan, we've seen
Just doesn't
this.
work. Yeah.
We've seen it already in Chicago for 4 years and or not four, but 3 years, and it just never panned out. And I
Yeah.
mean, Zach had 20, DeMar had 33, like it's like the tale as old as time. DeMar was the best player on the Bulls, even though Zach had the most talent.
Yeah.
And it's like DeMar puts up his numbers, but that doesn't mean that you're gonna win.
I hear
I
you.
kind of feel like that's been a problem,
Yeah.
for DeMar's whole career. And unfortunately, he's probably never gonna win a championship just because
Hmm.
like of the situations he goes to. But he puts up numbers.
Yeah.
What did you feel about this game?
Clay. Clay Thompson. This was playoff Clay.
This
This is
was the
why
guy they
Dallas brought
signed.
in Clay Thompson. This is why I said before the season started this was the best offseason move for our team. You
Well,
saw in the finals last year, shoot the three. That's why they got blitzed by Boston. They shot only 30% from three the entire
yeah.
season. That's why they got blitzed in five. And they didn't have any 3-point shooters that shot like 38% or better. So they bring in a guy like Clay Thompson. Now Clay
Yep.
Thompson's coming in thinking, "Oh, I'm going to play with Luka, Kyrie. I'm going to get wide open threes." Now, obviously, Luka got traded. No one knew that was going to happen, but Clay brought out the old Clay from Golden State.
Yeah, no, he looked great, man.
He's been in a lot of these situations. Obviously playing the multiple game sevens, won bunch of championships already and
Hmm.
stuff like that. So this is why Dallas brought him in, and this was the Clay game.
Oh yeah, no, he
Yeah,
played great. Like that. Thank you for reminding me too about that. Like because Clay in the second quarter when he didn't miss, he went I believe 4 for 4 or 5 for 5 from three in the
yeah,
second quarter, and I mean he just looked like Golden State Clay in that moment. And like you said, I remember when you were talking about this before the season started about how good Dallas was going to be because they finally got a knockdown shooter in Klay
shooter.
Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
You get another guy in Quentin Grimes in the offseason, that can be a shooter for you. You bring in Najee Marshall to be a disruptor, right? Guys that are supposed to help fill those gaps that you had in the finals where,
Mm-hmm.
they were really like daring PJ Washington to shoot because they know he can't consistently hit that shot. They knew
Yeah,
that they could play guys like Gafford and Lively off the floor because unfortunately they don't really bring any element of offensive game besides rim running on that end. So I think that Dallas, like, it's so sad to see like that this team could have been a lot more. Great win for them. I don't know if they I think they will beat Memphis tonight, but should they really beat Memphis?
That's a great question. That is a really good question. I personally believe they are going to beat the Grizzlies as well.
Hmm.
I don't know how Grant's going to look. Apparently, he's hasn't even practiced since,
Oh yeah.
So, but it looks like he's going to try out, give it an
Hmm.
attempt to play. And obviously, I just personally believe Dallas would give Oklahoma a better series than Memphis right now. That's just my personal opinion around it. I understand, like, yeah, you're not going to have Kyrie, but you still have AD, Derek Lively. You're going to have the size advantage over Oklahoma. Hopefully, Oklahoma's going to have to come with a game plan to stop AD if that matchup happens. And
Hmm.
and if Clay could be big time,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Clay, honestly, is the key for them if they could at least somehow make this a 6 game series or something like
I was
that.
gonna
Like
say, yeah, probably like
Dallas,
six.
Dallas ain't no typical 8 seed.
No, but they shouldn't have been
Even
in that
without Kyrie,
situation.
obviously,
Right.
you're 100% correct. Obviously they traded Luka. No one saw that coming. Obviously, Kyrie tore an ACL. No one saw that coming either. AD obviously looked so dominant his first game and down. Now, obviously, he's healthy now,
Hmm.
which is good to see. But yeah, I just don't think Memphis just has it. And I think John Morant actually has taken a dive a little bit. Maybe it has something to do with obviously the suspension, missing some time. Obviously, he's accumulated some injuries of his own, lately too.
Hmm.
So, and then yeah, and then obviously they fired Jenkins. That was the big thing too. Like you see these teams started to take dives when they get rid of their coaches mid-season. Like
That's
Sacramento
true.
got rid of Mike Brown
That's
too.
true.
People forget about that too as
Yeah, that was
well.
a see,
You
that's one
know.
we forgot to talk about too. That was a big firing right before they traded De'Aaron Fox too, which is crazy.
No, so I mean, yeah, this was the typical big Clay game. I don't know how many Clay games you're gonna get as he's getting older and stuff,
Hmm.
but he looked like old Clay out there, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if Clay could give you some of those games, and if they win tonight, maybe they could push Oklahoma to 6 games because they have such a huge size advantage. So you don't know,
Yeah, no, that's
But
true.
yeah,
That's
I
true,
would say
man.
Dallas is going to beat Memphis, and I personally somehow believe that Miami is going to win against
And
Atlanta. So I
Atlanta,
have one road
I think
team. So
yeah.
I have both road teams actually winning them.
I think Miami beats Atlanta. I think that Atlanta right now, they're missing their second best player, Jalen Johnson. They looked outmatched in the second half against the Magic. And I just think that Miami is able to put enough ball pressure on Trey Young. You can just throw Davion Mitchell on him, or you can throw Andrew Wiggins. Like you can throw a lot of guys at him. And I just don't really feel like they have anybody outside of Trey Young that's like, going to scare me. Dyson Daniels didn't play well against Orlando, and he's probably been one of their better players this whole year. And then,
Yeah,
like you said, man, I think can easily win this game tonight. Not to say that Memphis doesn't have size. You got
Edie.
Jaren Jackson Jr. and Edie. But you need Ja Moran out there to be able to provide, big scoring. Desmond Bane's going to show up. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if you don't have Ja Morant, I just don't think that you can win this game against Dallas because I do think like you said, this is not a typical 8 seed team. This is Dallas should not be the 10 seed. They should be a top 6 seed, even with them healthy. Like again,
Injuries
you know,
killed him.
I think even though while I thought the Luka trade was horrendous,
Mm-hmm.
that team was really good still. Like they had a lot of other pieces. Luka just puts you over the top, right?
Yeah.
And I think right now, I think AD is going to, he's just going to cook them inside. I mean, they're not going to really be able to stop him because you have to worry about Lively and Gafford rim running too. So, and if Clay can at least give you another good game of like 20 points, Najee Marshall has been consistent for them. Brandon Williams, the two-way that they have, he's been great for them
Yeah.
since he started playing. So I think Dallas, I agree with you. Dallas and Miami seems to be the two teams that'll probably win tonight, and then we'll have our lock in for the 1 through 8. Real
Yep.
quick, just want to talk about the Memphis We don't really have to talk about Atlanta and Orlando. I think it's kind of self-explanatory.
Yeah,
The better team won.
facts.
The one thing I'll just add is like, Trey Young, getting tossed, with like 4 minutes left in the game.
Yeah,
I just kind of thought it was funny, like he got the first tech, then he decided to just like kick the ball at that point and was like, you know what, I don't care. Like we're gonna lose this game anyways. I'm just gonna leave.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I don't got much to say about that. What I will say though is the Memphis, this was probably the best game. I mean, this was the one that actually came down to the wire. Jimmy Butler showed he was being playoff Jimmy, man. He had 38 points. Something
Facts.
that I do want to point out is he has always had the ability to get to the free throw line, and
Oh yeah.
I feel like if he can get to the line in the playoffs, he's gonna hurt a lot of teams. Like that's just how he does it. He's not
Yeah.
necessarily the fastest, the best scorer, the strongest guy, but he always finds a way to get to the free throw line, and
Hmm.
that's where it gets him to these like 30 point, 40-point games that you've seen because he doesn't take a whole lot of shots. He's
No,
just very selective with
they
what he
dare him
does.
to shoot threes. He did actually knock down, I think, a couple threes in that game.
Hmm.
And Jimmy's he's a pretty solid free throw shooter, and he missed 6 free throws. People forget he actually was 12 of 18 from the free throw line, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he
So
was. He was
he would
12 of 18.
he would have had a 40 burger if he
He could have
obviously,
actually hit his
when you
free
shoot
throws.
18 free throws, you're gonna miss a couple free throws.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like, yeah, he went 12. He only shot 60% from the free throw line. That's typically not Jimmy. So,
No, no. And
yeah.
yeah. No, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, no, dude, you're good. I would just say what would really it helps Steph finally having a Robin, you know, like
Yeah.
Jimmy could take over a game for the first few quarters, and then obviously Steph went ballistic in the fourth quarter. Like Steph is not going to get gassed out as much anymore. I think that is a very intriguing first round matchup that we could get into because
All right, let's get
Houston's
into it.
lack of
Let's get into it.
experience. They're young. Obviously, they had a phenomenal season. I think they
Yeah.
have the better overall roster.
Hmm.
Would not be shocked. I think Golden State actually got a good draw to get to a conference finals. Actually, I'm not picking it. I'm not picking it. But I think they got a very good. I think they got a good draw. I think they wanted to see Houston. I think they actually went 3-2 against them in the regular season as well. They typically play Houston very well. My question for Golden State is, Steve Kerr has not really been playing Jonathan Kuminga a lot, but
He's
Jonathan
probably gone, man.
Kuminga's best games in his regular
Hmm.
season were against the Rockets. He had a 33-point game against Houston, and
Hmm.
Kuminga is their young guy that can go out there and guard Jalen Green. So I'm interested because Steve Kerr's one of these coaches. You saw when he coached Team USA,
Hmm.
he plays guys based on matchups. He's not basically playing the same rotation no matter who they play. He's not that kind of coach. So I think Jonathan Kuminga could be a huge player in this series for them against Houston. But if they somehow win that series, and then potentially they would see the Lakers,
Hmm.
he might have a different rotation. Jonathan Kuminga might not even see the floor. That's just the kind of coach that he is. So
Right.
it's very interesting, and he changes things on the fly. The one thing about Steve Kerr that I like,
Hmm.
he doesn't show his full hand the first few games of a series. He typically doesn't. So, and obviously Houston has a very experienced coach. Ime Udoka's coached some big games and stuff like that, but I think the experience level that Golden State carries,
Hmm.
Draymond Green, Steph Curry, these guys have won championships, and Jimmy Butler's been to multiple finals now. Nobody on Houston, obviously, Fred VanVleet's won a title, but I
Yeah.
think besides that, nobody really else on that team has played in any sort of big game.
I think
So
Steven
that's why I
Adams would
think
be the
this
only
is,
other person that I could think of.
he hardly plays. So like
Right.
this is a very intriguing matchup. I think Golden State is thrilled that they're going against Houston. I
Yeah.
really believe this is a winnable series for them to win.
It reminds me of the Lakers and Grizzlies series where experience and championship pedigree just showed over a young team that really doesn't have a lot of experience because
Mm-hmm.
the year prior they went to the second round and lost to the Golden State Warriors because
Yep.
they just were undisciplined. And it's the
Mm-hmm.
same problem here. So I think one of the biggest things that we're going to have to see with this matchup is does Jalen Green actually show up? and play the way that he did in the regular season. Because I think one of the biggest problems with this Houston team is that they don't have a closer. They don't have somebody that can show up in the fourth
That's another
quarter and
reason why
take
I'm
over, yeah,
actually.
take over a game. And you got
Mhm.
two guys in Golden State and Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler. I agree with you, Nick, that this is probably
Nope.
the best matchup they could have gotten. Oh, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Yeah. No, 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 no. My bad for cutting you off.
No, no, you're good.
This this series reminds me of Oklahoma and Dallas last year.
Yeah,
We both said we both agreed that Dallas was going to win the series because they got two guys that could kill you at any moment.
right.
Oklahoma only had one guy. Now
SGA.
Houston, I don't know how to explain Houston, but like Jalen Green has been phenomenal this regular season.
Hmm.
Green has been unbelievable this regular season, but like, are they really the type of guys that can really, really take over a game in a big moment like that when they really, really need it? That's what we're about to find out. Just like you said, Golden State's got two of them.
Yeah, you got two guys, and I think that size isn't going to really matter in this series. Because we know Steven Adams is going to get played off the floor. He's not a really an offensive threat. He's a great rebounder. Sengun's going to play a lot of the five. Probably with Jabari Smith at the four. Amon Thompson is going to either be on Jimmy or Steph. I don't know which one they're going to throw him on, but he's going to be on one of them. So I do think he can slow them down. But,
Yeah,
again, if he gets into foul trouble, okay, who's gonna guard him? Dylan Brooks, because I think Dylan Brooks is going to probably guard the weakest person like on like the offensive end. So it'll probably be Draymond. He'll probably be on most of the time. And I just think with Houston, they've gotten cooked. They got cooked by Denver to end the year. Like there are just some times, like for example, like against the Lakers of the last two times, they didn't look that good. Like they were in the game, but I just kind of felt like against some of the top teams, like they just don't necessarily perform to the expectation that we would as a two seed. So that's what
yeah,
also scares me about them is that they're just too inconsistent. And like
yeah.
you said, do you really have somebody that's going to show up? Because we've seen it time and time again in the playoffs. I have Golden State winning this in 6 games.
Okay. I'm
I
kind of
still have
thinking
to
the
give
same.
I have to give Houston like 2 games. Like I don't like look Golden State out. Like I had them like really high at the beginning of the year, but it's just how well they were playing at the beginning of the year. Obviously, they
Yeah.
fell off. But I just don't think Golden State's a world beater. They're not winning a title this year, but I do think they'll win this matchup.
Hmm.
But you're saying Golden State in 6 as well?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I just think the experience level, having a couple guys, I think they could close it out. It just reminds me of that Dallas,
Oh, that's
Oklahoma,
fair.
stuff like that. And
Yeah.
obviously the lack of experience Houston just has right now at the moment. I feel
Hmm.
like when you have a young team like that that had a really, really good season, you
Right.
typically don't go get to the finals that first year. Like
True.
Oklahoma
That's
was the
true.
one seed, but they didn't get to the finals that first year.
Yeah.
Like when you have young teams that like had really good years that no one really expected, you just have to go through a tough loss of a series to get to where you want to go. I just feel like that's just
100%.
one of those instances. I feel like, and yeah, I have Golden State as a 7 seed beating
All right.
Houston, and I don't even think this is a typical 2-7 seed because if Jimmy started the year with Golden State,
They would have
I
been a
think Golden State would be a
top
top
four.
6 seed. Yeah,
Probably
for
maybe even
sure.
top four, maybe
So like
five.
this is
Yeah.
no, I completely agree. So this is not even a typical 7 seed team either.
No.
This is why the Western Conference, like,
It's crazy
there's
this
a
year.
lot of different scenarios that can happen. Like
Yeah.
they can even find a way in the. And I don't think they would beat the Lakers if the
I,
Lakers
I
beat
don't I don't
Minnesota,
see
but
I was gonna
I
say
don't
I'm
see
like
it either.
I just think LeBron has Steph's number now. Like it just feels like the last honestly probably since like LeBron went to LA, it just doesn't really feel like like the Lakers love to play the Warriors. So
Mm-hmm.
I understand that last matchup, but I don't think in a 7 game series that would work out in Golden State's favor. I think it would go
No facts.
6, but I think,
Yeah.
I still think LA would beat them. Again, I
Mm-hmm.
know it's like the Warriors like hater in me wants to like come out, but um we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I think
Facts.
one that we can both agree on would be like the OKC, whoever wins this game, the Grizzlies or the Mavericks. We both have the Mavericks winning tonight, so let's just say that's what happens. I would
Mm-hmm.
say OKC in 5 or 6. I still have to give Dallas one or two wins. You have AD, he's a great player. You have a lot of good complementary pieces on this team. Unfortunately, no Kyrie.
Yeah,
Um, I just think that the Thunder, they're going to be well rested. They have SGA, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren. You have a lot of perimeter defenders that are going to really cause problems bringing the ball up for Dallas because you don't really have a point guard right now. You kind
of
of
course.
been having a lot of off-ball guards like Christie, Spencer Dinwiddie's a point guard, but he's more of a scoring guard, not necessarily a facilitator.
Yeah.
Brandon Williams. I think that they're going to cause a lot of havoc on that end. I think a lot of turnovers are going to happen for Dallas. I do think that
Hmm.
if they're able to force them to play 80 more at the five and uh no Gafford or Lively at certain points, I think that will be a problem for them. So
Yeah.
that's I would do that. What do you think?
No, I completely agree with what you just said. I just think the guard depth, Dallas just doesn't have enough to contain SGA, doesn't have
Mhm.
enough to contain Jalen Williams and stuff. And I think they're really going to come out hungry this playoffs this year because obviously they were the one seed last year. They didn't even get to a conference finals last year. They just ran into a team that had two of the best closers in the game of basketball at that point,
Facts.
obviously. So it is what it is. So yeah, I got Oklahoma for sure. I do got Golden State winning as well. I got the Lakers beating Minnesota.
Minnesota. Okay.
Yeah, and then the 4-5 matchup is the
That's
Clippers
going to
and
be Nuggets and Clippers. I think that'll probably
yeah,
be the. I think that'll be the most interesting series that we see in the first round.
yeah, for sure. I'm just gonna go with wow. I know Denver's kind of there's a lot going on there, but I'm just gonna go out and just trust Jokic's talent to somehow squeeze out of this series. So I'm gonna go
Okay.
Denver in this matchup. I think the Clippers are gonna be a popular pick though because they've been playing a lot better and they have been hot. I get it, they've been hot. I just don't trust James Harden in the playoffs. And I don't trust Kawhi Leonard staying healthy. It's just simple as that. And I can't not pick the best player in the world to get out of one series. So I'm going with the Nuggets.
All right. Fair enough. I got the Lakers in six against Minnesota. I think he's gonna will them to at least one or two wins.
Mm-hmm.
I do think though, like the Lakers have too much. Like I know that they say they're small, but they have a lot of length. And
Yeah,
you have Luka, LeBron, and Reeves. I just think that's too much. Randall's not a playoff performer. Rudy Gobert is gonna
yeah.
get played off the floor. It's just kind of expected. Denver. I do have Denver. I'm gonna say six or seven. I do think that what's going to really be interesting to see is can Zubac stay on the floor and not get into foul trouble because they don't really have anybody else. They got Ben Simmons as his backup center. So if
That's bad.
And Zubac's been great.
Yeah,
But
he's solid. He's
can
really solid.
Kawhi stay healthy? Does he get hurt in
Mm-hmm.
this? Because like that'll be the whole determining factor. And then Harden.
Yeah,
What Harden are we going to see? We're going to see fat suit Harden? Are we going to see hamstring Harden? Are we going to see playoff Harden, which doesn't really bode well for them? Or are we going to see like
yeah,
the regular season
facts.
Harden that we like grown accustomed to seeing, where he puts up these insane stat lines? Like he did it again this year.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So, so we have the same four.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, I just can't. I just don't see it happening any other way. For
yeah, for
those.
sure. And then
Uh,
I'm gonna
in the
go
East.
Laker. Yeah, or you want to go to
Oh no,
East?
no, no,
I
no.
don't know
Go
if you
ahead,
want
go
to
ahead, go
finish the
ahead, go
West real
ahead.
quick.
No, no.
So
Go
so
ahead
I have
with
the
the.
Lakers.
Yeah.
I have the Lakers, Oklahoma in the conference finals.
Okay.
I know that I'm a big Oklahoma City fan.
Hmm.
I think the Lakers are getting to the finals this year.
Okay.
I don't know what it is. I think that
It's just they have like people have to stop saying they don't have depth. They do.
they have good role talent. This Lakers team
Yeah.
has
Like
really good
I,
role
I
players,
don't think they
and
realize
and and,
that.
and Oklahoma's not a team that will impose their will from their front court.
Yeah.
That's solid, but like if the Lakers get Oklahoma in the conference finals, personally, I just think the Lakers are getting to the finals. I
Their
personally believe
lineup,
if they get that matchup, they're going to. It favors the Lakers in
it
that
does.
specific
It
matchup.
it
I
really
think the Lakers
does.
gets. I think the Lakers are going to represent the Western Conference, and this will be LeBron James's last NBA Finals appearance.
It probably will be, and I think it's kind of a storybook thing for Luca. I
Yeah.
definitely have the Lakers beating the Warriors in the second round. I don't think the Warriors can beat that team, just because I
Mm-hmm.
just think they have too much offensive firepower and they have enough guys they can throw at Curry and Butler. That
Yeah.
would probably go six though still. Not to, count them out. OKC would face Denver. I think that's a 6 game series. I think Jokic is still, the best player in the world. He's going to get 2 wins. But they don't have enough. And then, like you said, man,
You
yeah,
going
I
Lakers
feel
too?
like that. No, like I do think the Lakers can actually win. I know it's like not a popular thing to say. Um, but my biggest thing with the Lakers is that Luka is the best player, and that has never been said with LeBron James on this team.
Hmm.
I just think
Yeah,
having him as your best player, I think that they have 3 guys that can create. You have Dorian Finney-Smith, Roy Hachimura, you got Gabe Vincent. I know I'm like forgetting another like key piece. Like Jordan Goodwin's been great for them in terms of like a defensive player, and then
yeah,
you can either choose somebody like a Shake Milton or Jackson Hayes as well.
yeah.
They just have enough, like they have enough pieces to make the finals. It'll be
Hmm.
interesting to see how well they play in the finals though. So,
No,
but
no,
I would
facts.
say, yeah.
No, 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 no. What were you saying?
Oh no, no, I was just gonna say probably like I think again it would probably be like a 6 game series though in that
Yeah.
situation too. Go
Yeah.
ahead. I'm
So
sorry.
I personally, no, no, you're good. I know we got to get through this quick.
Yeah.
So I got the Lakers representing the Western Conference this year.
Okay.
So in the East, I'm pretty much going to go chalk literally all the way. And
Okay.
I'm just gonna literally say it's gonna be the Cavs Celtics Eastern Conference Finals, and I
All
got
right.
Boston making it out. So I personally believe we're gonna see another Lakers Celtics historic NBA Finals. And I'm gonna say the Celtics do repeat as NBA champions this year. I think Luka's got a better crew around him this go around in the finals with better teammates around him overall. So
Mhm.
I think the Lakers could push this to like maybe 6 games, but I got the Celtics win the championship, dude. When they're healthy, who's gonna really beat this team 4 out of 7? The only games that they really lose is if they get uninterested in the game, they have a 20-point lead in the fourth quarter, they blow it, or
Mhm.
they just have a historically bad 3-point shooting night. I can't see that happening 4 out of 7 games, no matter who they playing. I
Yeah.
think Cleveland's the 1 seed. Congrats to them, but that's just how I see it. I got Laker Celtics finals,
Okay.
Boston winning it.
All right. In the East, well, I definitely have Cleveland winning in 4. Whoever wins tonight, I think they're gonna sweep them in the first round. Um, Bucks and Pacers. I got the Bucks actually winning in 6 games. If Dame can actually come back, I think if as long as Giannis stays healthy and Dame comes back, I think that they'll have enough to beat Indiana. I think last year not having Giannis was a huge like factor in that. Congrats to the Pacers for a great year. Knicks and Pistons. I would still take the Knicks in 6 over the Pistons. Detroit, great year. I just don't think they can beat New York in a 7 game series. I think they'll make it interesting. Celtics play the Magic. I think even though it's a bad matchup, for like the Celtics, just because of how well Orlando plays them, I would probably say this one goes 5 or 6. Just depends on how well Orlando plays them in the series. And once they figure out how to beat Orlando, I think that's when Boston will take over. Second
Mm-hmm.
round, would be the Cavs and Bucks. I don't think the Bucks have enough to beat the Cavs, even with Dame playing. So I would still I'd probably take the Cavs in 5 or 6. And
Mm-hmm.
then the Celtics would be playing the Knicks. That's probably going to go 5. Tom Thibodeau teams, unfortunately, historically, just run out of gas. And that's going to happen in that series. They also were like 0 of like 15 against like top teams this year. So they
Yep.
were not good at all
Exactly.
in that category. Celtics, I'm going to take over the Cavs in 5 or 6. I don't see any series going 7 this year. I just don't think there's like where it's like that close.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, I agree with you, man. I think until somebody can actually prove they can beat the Celtics, as much as I think this Lakers team has a like puncher's chance of beating the Celtics, I would go the Celtics in 6 games. I do think like the Lakers will probably it'll be probably like a 2-2 series. And that game 5 is going to be like where the Celtics just show that they're just a little bit better than them. And just like they're going to figure out a way to either like really force LeBron to bring up the ball because they're going to just ball pressure Luca the whole time. So
Yeah.
that's, like that's what probably will end up happening. But yeah, I would say the
Yeah.
Celtics, repeat champions, man. And that's where I'm gonna leave it. Uh,
So to be
yeah,
clear, you have it on record. You have the Lakers coming out the West too.
I do have the Lakers coming out of the West. We'll
You have the
see.
same.
We'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see. But
Hmm.
I just I just think that that's just kind of probably the matchups that just make the most sense in this
Yeah.
situation. But we'll see, man. We'll see.
We'll
Um,
see.
Before we go, just want to say thank you guys for listening. I know it's been a long time. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe on this episode. Let us know what you think is going to happen in the playoffs. Nick, we'll be back soon to talk these first round matchups, how they're going, and if our predictions are going to be correct. So, um,
Facts.
for Nick and myself, it's been all ball, no foul. Thank you. Have a good rest of your night, and we will talk to you soon.